My name is Michael Farrow, and for 2 years my life was consumed by one story, NXIVM. I was a journalist, on the front lines, documenting the fall of Keith Raniere's empire. I listened to the victims. I studied the evidence. I watched the monster get locked away. And when the trial was over, I thought it was finished, a final, ugly chapter of history, closed and sealed. But some books refuse to stay shut. 3 months ago, an encrypted email appeared in my inbox. The sender was an anonymous address I didn't recognize, but I recognized the fear in her words. She was a former member, someone from the inner circle who had escaped. She wrote just 2 lines. "They're gathering again. Same system, new name. The retreat is just the beginning." She gave me an address, an old estate by a lake in upstate New York, a place that was advertising itself online as the Solstice Retreat, a weekend of personal growth and digital detox. The language was different, softer. They didn't call themselves NXIVM, but the jargon was the same. The promises of unlocking potential, the tiered levels of training, the symbols hidden in their clean minimalist logo. It was the ghost wearing a new mask. I knew I had to go. One last story, one final nail in the coffin. I enrolled under a false name, posing as a burnt-out tech worker seeking meaning. The retreat was as beautiful as it was isolated. A grand old lodge surrounded by a collection of small, rustic wooden cabins, all nestled on the shore of a vast, unnervingly still lake. The air was clean, smelling of pine and cold water. At check-in, they took my phone, my laptop, my watch. "A true detox from the outside world," the smiling attendant said. "Here, you only need to listen to yourself." That was the first lie. There were 10 of us, 10 lost souls, all searching for an answer. Our leader was a woman named Sabrina Hall, charismatic, intelligent, with the serene, unwavering gaze of a true believer. I recognized her face from my old research files, a high-ranking NXIVM coach who had vanished just before the indictments came down. The first day was deceptively innocent. Sunrise meditations by the lake, trust-building exercises, seminars on ego transcendence. The evenings were quiet, spent around a bonfire, sharing stories. It was all so calm, so therapeutic. But even in the calm, something felt wrong. The smiles of the staff were too wide, too fixed, and the participants began to change. Their exhaustion was replaced by a strange, placid serenity, the same empty look I had seen in old photos of NXIVM members. Then, on the second night, things began to unravel. I was in my cabin, trying to sleep, when I heard a whisper just outside my door, a low, dry, hissing sound. "You are not ready." I sat up, my heart pounding. I looked out the window. Nothing. Just the dark woods and the silent lake. The next morning, one of the participants was gone, a young man named David. Sabrina told us he had a breakthrough and chose to leave early. But his cabin was empty. His bag was still there. His car was still in the parking lot. He had just vanished. That night, my journalistic instincts overpowered my fear. I had a small, button-sized spy camera they hadn't found. I watched Sabrina's cabin. Just after midnight, I saw her lead the remaining group out of the main lodge. Not towards the lake, not towards the bonfire, towards the old stone cellar of the main house. I followed, a ghost in the shadows. The cellar smelled of damp earth, incense, and something else. Fear. The scene inside was a nightmare tableau. Candles, symbols painted on the stone floor, mirrors on the walls, reflecting the scene into an infinite, terrifying loop. And in the center, a cold steel table. The remaining participants stood in a circle. Sabrina was in the center, her serene expression now something harder, colder. I noticed it then, in the flickering candlelight. A mark on her neck, just below her ear. A faint, silvery scar. The brand, KR. She made them recite the vow, a pledge of ultimate trust. It was the same language, the same poison. One of the women began to cry, her body trembling. Sabrina moved to her, not with comfort, but with a cold intensity. She placed a hand on her shoulder. "Fear is a weakness," she whispered, her voice a blade, "and we are here to burn it away." I filmed everything. My hidden camera, a single, unblinking eye in the darkness. And in that moment, as if he could feel my daze, one of the participants in the circle, a man I had spoken to earlier, slowly turned his head. He looked directly at me, directly at the camera, and he smiled. A slow, wide, knowing smile that did not reach his empty, placid eyes. He held my gaze for a full 10 seconds. He knew. They all knew. The next morning, they came for me. 2 large men in plain dark shirts. They didn't knock. They used a key. "Sabrina would like to see you," one said, his voice flat. "An individual session." They led me to that same room in the cellar. It was empty now, except for the steel table. Sabrina was waiting, sitting on its edge. The 2 men stood by the door, blocking the only exit. Her warm, maternal smile was gone, replaced by the cold, analytical gaze of a predator. "You're not a seeker, are you, Michael?" she said, her voice smooth as ice. "And observers are a liability we cannot afford." She gestured to a small glass on the table. "A final toast to your breakthrough." She made me drink it. The liquid was sweet, like the incense. The world began to blur, the edges turning soft and dark. I felt my body grow heavy, my thoughts like stones sinking into a black, silent lake. The last thing I saw was Sabrina's face, leaning over me, her eyes filled with a cold, triumphant pity. My last recording is not my own. The frame is shaky, the sound corrupted by static. It shows me, Michael Farrow, standing in a circle with the others. My face is pale, serene. My eyes are empty. On my neck, just below my ear, is a fresh, red, angry mark, the same mark as Sabrina's. I am repeating her words, my voice a flat, lifeless monotone. We are not NXIVM. We chant in unison. We are the continuation. The camera trembles. The sound devolves into a chorus of chanting, which slowly, horribly twists into a single, collective scream. Then, silence. The screen cuts to black, and a final title card appears. The Retreat, now accepting new members.